Hello, everybody. This is August, and the NFL season is right on top of us. But before we get there, me and Simon Short are doing offensive lineman rankings. And basically, we took each position: left tackle, left guard, center, right tackle, right guard. And we came up with our top five. We didn't always agree, and that's fine. But we're sure excited that you're a part of it here tonight. This is the Box Score Network. Simon, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm awesome, Ben. Thank you so much for putting this together and getting these beautiful graphics together for us and coming back because we're both old. We both have children, and I had my calendar wrong last night. So you were waiting around to talk offensive line basically since last night. You haven't left your little cave there. And now I'm finally here, ready to go, ready to keep this rolling. I was watching a little Drew Dahlman film again just before this because what else
Yes.
do we do on a Saturday night? And I'm ready to go, man. Let's do this.
Yeah, absolutely. I did sit here for 24 hours straight. And during that time, I decided that seeing our faces once wasn't enough. So I put it on here twice, okay? So they can see our beautiful profiles and our straight on views as well.
As long as you didn't put my face on that graphic and then like do a mock podcast episode where you're trying to talk in my voice and predict what I was gonna say. Um, if you start doing that, man, we got to be done. We do this too much together.
All right, everybody watching, thank you so much for hopping on. We'll quit fooling around. We'll hop straight into. I mean, we got a lot of stuff to get to. By the way, for those of you, we often do nicer graphics than this tonight. I got Excel toolbars up all over the place. I mean, so just put up with that. But we've got some really good stuff for you content wise tonight. So what we're going to do, this is left tackle. Okay. So left tackle for the NFL. This is Simon's 1 through 5. All right. S for Simon. This is his 1 through 5. The parentheses, that's B for Ben. That's me for those of you who don't know. So if you see number one for Simon, when we get to it, that'll be my number two left tackle, so on and so forth. And the H is for honorable mention. That's somebody we liked, didn't get into our top five, but got into the other guy's top five. We were really close on most of these on which
Hmm.
guys belong, but there were one or two groups where there were actually two guys that didn't even fit. So we'll get to that. Left tackle. Simon, let's go ahead and reveal really, number four on my list, your honorable mention for left tackle. So I'll just start with that on this one. Christian Darrisaw. You know how much I love Christian Darrisaw. I've got him as number four. I'll talk more about that in a second. You didn't get him in there, but I'm sure you got reasons why. So go ahead and start us here. Christian Darrisaw, the Vikings.
Yeah, Darisaw is awesome. I mean, I'll just quickly preface this with when I made my long list for everybody that I got a B plus grade or higher got onto my long list, and he is certainly on that. I have him as a top 8 left tackle. He's strong as an ox. He lets players into his chest, but never all the way into his chest, if that makes sense. And then he just anchors down and traps him in there like a freaking bear. And one of the few players that put Jared Verse on the ground, which is pure strength last year, which was a really fun rep. Um, I really like Darisaw. I have him as the same grade as my 5 through 11, basically in terms of a letter grade. Uh, this has definitely always been your guy, though. Just one of the strongest players in the NFL for sure.
I love Darrisaw, and I love his movement ability just as much as his strength. He moves so well. I will get to it. My four top left tackles, I've got a pecking order. He's four, but truthfully, you give me any of those four, and I'm thrilled to death. I'm good for years, barring injury, which a couple of these guys have. But love Christian Darrisaw. Your honorable mention, my number four. Here is your number five. My number one, and we'll talk about the injury, of course, Rashawn Slater for the Chargers.
Yeah, Slater, I really enjoy Slater. He was my first of my B pluses. However, he is so strong and a very good natural anchor, and that's not even affected to when people get into his pod body, which they do, and it's a good skill that it doesn't impact him because he has those shorter arms. So I think people are going to see a theme with me, and something a real bugaboo for me is just when guys get into that body, and Slater is fantastic at working around that. So is Darisaw. I mentioned the way both of those two kind of work around it. But Slater, just really good feet overall, really good on the move as well. He's a really good player, and the injury just absolutely sucks. He has a torn
Yeah.
or sprain or whatever PTL patella tendon in his knee, he's going to be out for the 2025 season. So shout out to Slater for getting his paycheck though before that happened. But Chargers will be without one of the best young tackles in the NFL.
Brutal for the Chargers because of what they were hoping to gear up this year. Brutal for Slater. Really hate it. I love Slater, and just so that you and the audience know, me and Simon, we see a lot of stuff the same way, but we've got our different preferences on how we view things. I tend to have a preference for guys who pass block more often than not. Simon often over the years has tended more a little bit toward guys that run block. That's not it's not across the board, but that's kind of where our tendencies lie. And Simon's always stressed hands. I've always been more of a feet guy. I've always felt like if they can make it up with their feet, I like that pretty good. But again, that's not across the board either. So you'll hear us talk about that tonight in different ways with some of these players. But Slater here checking in at 5 for you, 1 for me.
I can't wait to clip the bit of you saying I'm more of a feet guy.
Me
it's
and
too
Rex
good to
Ryan,
pass up.
baby. Is it Rex? No, it's the other. Is it the other
It's
Ryan?
all of them. It's all the
Okay,
Ryans.
yeah.
It's
Me,
just it's every single one of them. Everyone that's ever
yeah, me
been
and the
around.
Ryans hang out a lot. New York,
Yep.
Chicago, wherever.
Listen, similar vibe, real similar. All right, anyways, who's next on our list?
This guy is your number 4 and my number
Mm,
5. So we were really close on him. That's
yep.
Andrew Thomas for the Giants.
Yeah. Thomas is a A minus for me, just absolute stud. Ever since he figured things out in year 3 or 4, wherever it was there, just became one of the smoothest tackles in the NFL. Very quick feet, very strong hands, just moves up the arc and gets his hands on you with ease. Very balanced and under control player. He's never in a rush. He's never on the ground. Just someone that you can just set and forget at left tackle, and there's not really a hole in his game. So just a really, really strong overall player for me.
One of my great disappointments, and I love Thomas. I've got him, he was a no doubt or top 5. I wanted to push him higher, but honestly, this group is just too good. You mentioned a few days ago when we were talking
Hmm.
about our group, the left tackle has the greatest, to me and you, the greatest really good player depth. That pushing
Yes.
elite level
Yeah.
guys. I don't want to say they're Hall of Famers, but boy, they are really pushing up toward, hey, we can often dominate. And so for Andrew Thomas to be 4th and 5th felt wrong, but it felt right at the same time. I really love Andrew Thomas, but the frustrating thing with him is, boy, he just never has gotten to play with a lot of great teammates on that offensive
No
line.
doubt.
You can
Hmm.
imagine if you could look him up with a great center and they together could help the left guard spot and just really crush that left side of the line. It's never really happened though, so a little frustrating there for those of us who really respect Andrew Thomas and his game.
Yeah, no doubt. And like you said, I had 11 left tackles on my long list, and that was the deepest of the five positions. So it's so important to have a tackle. It's so important to have good offensive line, and we're starting to see some good depth here at the left tackle position in the NFL. So it's really cool to see.
We are, and I was going to say this for the end of the left tackle discussion, but I'll go ahead and put it now because it fits. When I looked at the left tackle class of NFL players 2 seasons ago, 3 seasons ago, I was like, man, where's all the great ones at? Like that's been
Hmm.
the position for decades. But I realized we had just had 2 or 3 guys kind of get old slash retire all at once.
Yeah.
And then we had some young up and comers, this group, which we could see coming, but they just weren't there yet. They were still, year 1, year 2 of coming off the draft. But they're here now. They are here making
Oh
an
yeah.
impact. And, again, even if you don't want to give them elite level grades, they are really good. And so the left tackle class to me cycled back through now. And these guys, barring injuries, should be dominating for years to come. And, this is a really good class here at left tackle for the NFL.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Your number 3, who I left out of my top 5, I put him honorable mention. Again, it's a tough group. Trent Williams for the
Hmm.
49ers.
Trim, would he be your number five if you kind of took Slater out for the injury this year? How close was Trent Williams for you?
He was 6 or 7 for me.
Hmm.
I really hated to leave him off, man, but to me it was obvious he's just not the same guy anymore.
Yeah, I mean he still had I think he still has all the tools. Like when everything is right and when he's healthy. Now that was the thing. If you're watching the
Yeah.
2024 tape, um, and you're seeing the game where a game where he's not healthy or he's coming back from the injury or the rest of the offense around him isn't, he's more impacted by what's going on around him, including his own injuries, than he has been in the past. And that happens when you're 50 years old, still playing left tackle at a really high overall level. But if you look at him on the right day, if you look at him in the right game, he still has the strength, he still has the anchor, his feet still move well, he still gets his hands out quickly. Maybe it was just that injury related stuff from this year, but he's definitely half a step behind guys like the guys, a couple guys that I have above when it comes to what makes an A plus level offensive lineman for me, and that's that ability to pick off the little guys at the second and third level. This was something that Trent Williams did better than anybody for about 10, 15 years, and doing it at his
Yeah.
size just made him one of the best offensive linemen I've seen. And that just wasn't there last year. Even in the games where everything else was good, everything at the line of scrimmage, even getting to the second level and like being in the way, right? Just not that same ability to turn on a dime, latch onto the little guys and really make plays 10, 15, 20 yards down the field. But that's a really high level thing and really, really, really hard to do. And yet, even without that skill, I still have him here at number three. I think he just still has all the right tools there. And I think San Francisco might be a little bit more organized this year,
Yeah.
TBD on that, at least on the offensive line. So I still have Trent Williams very high for me.
I agree about the San Francisco offensive line be a little more organized this year than we've seen in years past. I will say though, we're seeing two vectors kick in here. One that I already mentioned. I tend to favor guys who are better at pass blocking than run blocking. And I want to be clear here. When we're talking about Trent Williams, we're talking about all timers, Hall of Fame, cream of the crop. He gets compared to the other great ones. Now, when I look at him, his run blocking over the past decade has been maybe the best ever of anybody. His pass blocking is still very good, but it's not up here. It's down here. And so when I saw this, kind of run blocking meter slip a little bit for me, that's when he started to get out of my top five because I got all these other guys here playing so darn well.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that's what's kicking in. Trent Williams, number three, and honorable mention. Number two for you, number three for me, Jordan Mailata, Eagles.
Mailata, just a mauler, an absolute beast physically. Very good on his feet for his size, obviously both out in space, but also pulling and keeping them moving in pass protection. His whole plan is to get his two hands on you, very similar to Darisaw, because once he does, the defender is absolutely done. He's got a death grip, but he does that again a little further out of his body than a Darisaw does, which I really appreciate. But really this is that A tier for me. Trent Williams was still my A minus with Andrew Thomas. Trent Williams with Andrew Thomas were my A minuses. Mailata is up to an A because he is one of those guys that is good at being out in space and finding those little guys and getting that extra, turning that explosive run into a double explosive run when, Saquon's got two guys to beat and he's behind Mailata and he knows that guy as a 330 pounder is actually going to knock one of those guys down. So that's a big, big thing for me. So my ladder, I gave an A, and it feels like he's just gonna keep getting better because of that long kind
Yeah.
of trajectory he had, and he's still young. So I really like my ladder. Really happy with where he's come since we last kind of did these individual rankings where you could see the potential, and he was still very effective. But now I think he's just a legitimately really good player.
I punished Mulata just a little bit. I want to be clear here. Aside from Williams, who's got age now, Andrew Thomas, Rashawn Slater, Christian Darrisaw, Jordan Mailata, our number one that we have yet to reveal. Those five guys, I'm happy with any of them. All right. I am thrilled. Boy, I can do a lot of things with any of those guys. They're each a little bit different, but I can do almost anything I want to. Nothing's going to stop me from winning football games with those five guys. But I punished Mulata just a little bit because he's only always ever played with other great offensive linemen, and he's had the benefit of the best offensive line coach in the NFL. In my head, I'm always thinking, well, if we go back to kind of the Madden rating, as you call it, or the talent base, if Andrew Thomas or Slater or Darrisaw were put in that same situation, would they not look as good or better? And if Mulata were in one of their situations, like the Giants, would they look worse? Now, again, ifs, ands, and buts. It really doesn't matter. So I've got Mulata at three. You've got him at two. I love him, but I did take just a little bit off because of that.
Yeah, I think that's a fair distinction when we're talking about these guys up here with how good each of them are individually. the idea of mix and matching them would be really fun to see what that outcome would have been for all those guys. I mean, we did, excuse me, the Mailata redraft exercise a few weeks ago, and we had no idea what to
We
do with him.
did.
Like, he should be a top five pick based on who he is right now. He went in the seventh
Right.
round because he had never played football before. Where's the right in between if you're kind of redoing this whole thing? So Mailata is a tricky one, but all I know right now is that dude gets after
Yeah.
it and puts some people in the dirt, which I love.
He would be fantastic anywhere. All right. Number one. Your number one. My number two, actually. Tristan Wirfs for the Buccaneers.
Wirfs was my highest graded individual offensive lineman when we did our podcast a couple months ago where we went through all the offensive lines. Only guy I gave an A+ to. He has that elite size and movement combination that no one in the NFL has right now. So that ability to pull, to get out in space, to be 20 yards downfield and knock a cornerback down, nobody can do it like Tristan Wirfs can. The plus factor, obviously, moving from right tackle to left tackle for the first time really in his entire career, 4 years in the NFL and 2.5 of his 3 years in college
Hmm.
were spent at right tackle, and he just moves over to left tackle in one summer and is an all pro. Um, and just again, like no one, you think he's a like a move tight end when he's running out there, like
Yeah.
not just like
Yeah.
any tight end. Like he is so fluid. It looks like he could legitimately be out there running a route. And then all the stuff on top of it, good feet and pass pro, good hand usage, good anchor, all that stuff. Um, but that little extra oomph of he's gonna block anybody anywhere is what makes him the number one guy for me in the entire NFL.
And
Also dealing
part
with
of
an injury,
what,
by the way, which sucks.
yeah, unfortunately, part of what, because man, every guy on this list, I think, except for Malata here, we talked about injuries with him. Definitely with Williams,
Hmm.
Thomas, Slater, Darrisaw, and Wirfs. I mean,
Yep.
so if you, part of the impression we have of these guys is that I see him during the year when he was coming back from an injury. And do I believe that's who he is, or do I believe no, he really is greatness? Like with Rashawn Slater, I just love him, so that's why I got him as number one. But
Hmm.
now Slater's heading right back into another year of injury, so it might be 2 years before we see. I say 2 years. It might be what is that? 18 months before we see Slater back
Right.
to his true self again.
Right.
Even though I
Hmm.
love that guy to death. So Tristan Wirfs, right here at the top for you, number two for me. All right, anything else on this left tackle group, man? It's a deep group.
I mean, there's so many guys down in my long list of honorable mentions. Taylor Decker is also dealing with an injury. Jake Matthews, young guy Charles Cross is still playing really good for Seattle, even when they've had bad lines. Um, if I had to pick one guy to kind of sneak as my fifth, if Rayshon Slater isn't, we're not counting. Laramie Tunsil and Deion Dawkins are two guys I still really like. Gave them both equal grades. Left tackle is just in a really good spot in the NFL right now. Those guys are huge difference makers. So a lot of teams should be happy with where they're at.
It is. And listen, I'll even go ahead and tack on what would be more like my ninth and 10th guys. It's more like Colton Miller, Bernard Raymond. Those are
Hmm.
guys
Hmm.
who,
Yep.
if you were just valuing Madden ratings at these other positions where it's not as much depth, they would be maybe pushing top five or in the top five. I'll get to another position later on the night where the depth just wasn't as strong from a talent based
Hmm.
standpoint. But boy, they're here. They're like my 9 and 10, you're 11 and 12 because the depth is here.
Yep.
Charles Cross was the one guy that you mentioned that I had really high up. I didn't put him top five, but boy, he looks like he's close. If and that would be huge for Seattle. He looks like he's getting there to what people thought he would be when he was getting drafted.